Robert Redford destroyed careers and made enemies with one simple rule that changed Hollywood forever. Robert Redford names the 5 actors he hated the most. Behind those famous blue eyes lived a man who fought silent wars in Hollywood. Robert Redford wasn't just a movie star, he was a perfectionist who refused to bend. And that choice cost him friendships, destroyed partnerships, and created enemies in the very industry that made him famous. Today we're revealing the truth about Hollywood's most principled actor, and the brutal battles that shaped his legendary career. In 1969, Robert Redford met his first real enemy on the set of Downhill Racer. Gene Hackman was already becoming one of Hollywood's most feared actors. On paper, they were perfect together. Hackman's raw power balanced against Redford's cool charm. But from day one, these two lions couldn't share the same cage. Hackman treated every role like a war. He arrived on set with pages of notes, endless questions, and an explosive temper that could blow up without warning. He challenged directors constantly, improvised during scenes, and demanded perfection from everyone around him. Redford watched this chaos with growing anger. He had learned acting from masters like Sidney Pollack, who taught him that acting meant serving the story, not dominating it. When Hackman started improvising during their scenes together, Redford felt his own performance falling apart. The breaking point came during a crucial dialogue scene. Hackman refused to leave his trailer for over an hour because he didn't like the lighting setup. Production stopped. Dozens of crew members waited while their wages burned away with each passing minute. Redford had grown up respecting working-class people. He couldn't stand watching good people suffer because of one man's ego. So he walked to Hackman's trailer and opened the door without knocking. In front of everyone, Redford delivered the line that would define their relationship forever. "This isn't your movie, Gene. It's a team effort. Show up or step aside." The silence was deafening. Hackman came out and finished the scene, but he and Redford never spoke off camera again. Years later, Redford would describe Hackman as a sledgehammer in a violin shop. When Redford started producing his own films, Hackman's name appeared on casting lists several times. Each time Redford wrote the same note, "Not worth it. Brilliant actor, impossible human." The wound from Hackman was still fresh when Redford encountered James Woods in the late 70s. Woods was everything Redford had learned to avoid: confrontational, aggressive, and intellectually ruthless. Their first meeting was supposed to be a simple audition for a supporting role. Woods turned it into an hour-long political debate about Vietnam, the Cold War, and America's role in global conflicts. He had a gift for finding people's weak spots and pressing until they revealed themselves completely. Woods saw Redford's measured responses as cowardice. "You want to make important films," Woods said during one heated exchange, "but you're afraid to take important risks." The accusation stung because it contained truth that Redford wasn't ready to face. Was his desire for harmony actually fear of controversy? Was he thinking deeply enough about his choices? The audition ended with Redford walking out, something he had never done before in his professional life. Later, when asked about it, he said, "If I wanted a debate, I'd go back to college." But privately, he wondered if Woods had seen something in him that he wasn't ready to see in himself. The pattern continued with every Woods audition. The actor would arrive prepared not just to read lines but to challenge assumptions, push boundaries, and force everyone to defend their artistic choices. For Woods, this was how great art was born, through conflict and confrontation. For Redford, it was exhausting chaos. The final straw came during casting for The Natural. Woods auditioned for the cynical sports writer Max Mercy. He delivered the lines with venomous precision, but then immediately launched into a critique of the script's political message. "Are we making art or propaganda?" he demanded, his eyes fixed on Redford with laser intensity. That question haunted Redford for months, but in the moment he simply closed the script and left the room. Woods never auditioned for a Redford project again. By 1975, Redford had the power to choose his projects and co-star, so when he agreed to work with Dustin Hoffman on All the President's Men, it seemed like a meeting of equals. two of the most respected actors telling one of the most important stories in American history. But from the first rehearsal their approaches clashed completely. Hoffman treated each scene like a jazz session, ready to follow the music wherever it led. Redford trusted his instincts but also respected the story's structure. He found Hoffman's spontaneity destructive rather than liberating. Hoffman would rehearse a scene one way, then completely change his approach during filming without warning his co-star. He would subtly reposition himself during takes to capture better lighting or camera angles, sometimes stepping directly into Redford's key light. These weren't accidents, they were calculated moves by an actor who understood filmmaking's technical aspects and used them to his advantage. Redford, who prided himself on being a generous scene partner, began feeling like he was in competition rather than collaboration. The breaking point came during a complex phone call sequence in the newsroom. The scene required precise timing and emotional buildup that Redford had carefully calibrated during rehearsal. But Hoffman, dissatisfied with his first take, requested 7 more, each with different emotions, different pacing, different unscripted additions. Redford was forced to react to these unpredictable changes, watching his own carefully constructed performance crumble with each take. By the end his patience was gone, and his respect for Hoffman as a scene partner had evaporated. The irony wasn't lost on him. They were playing journalists uncovering institutional corruption while engaged in their own form of professional betrayal. Despite the tensions, All the President's Men became a triumph. But Redford never forgot the experience. When reunion panels were proposed years later, he declined them all. Some experiences are best left in the past, he would say diplomatically, but those close to him knew the truth. He had learned that talent and professionalism weren't always the same thing. The pattern continued into the new millennium with Lions for Lambs. Redford, now Hollywood's elder statesman, wanted to make a statement about American foreign policy. Tom Cruise, at his global superstar peak, seemed like the perfect partner to deliver that message worldwide. But from their first meeting, they spoke different languages. Redford talked about themes and character motivations. Cruise talked about market positioning and global demographics. When Redford discussed the film's political message, Cruise worried about international box office impact. The disconnect became clear during script development. Redford envisioned a stripped-down, documentary-style approach. Cruise arrived with teams of consultants and marketers, each with opinions about maximizing commercial appeal. He requested dialogue changes to make his character more sympathetic, story alterations to give his role more screen time, and ending modifications for what he called emotional satisfaction. To Redford, these weren't creative notes, they were corporate mandates disguised as artistic input. During filming, Cruise treated the set like a marketing laboratory. He requested multiple takes, not to explore emotions, but to create options for different international markets. He brought his own cinematographer to collaborate with Redford's chosen director of photography, effectively maintaining control over his image. Most disturbing to Redford, Cruise seemed more concerned with how scenes would play in trailers than how they served the story. During one tense moment, Redford asked, "Are we making a movie or a 2-hour commercial?" The question hung unanswered, capturing their entire conflict. The film's failure felt like personal betrayal to Redford, not because it damaged his reputation, but because it represented commerce triumphing over art. He had compromised his vision to accommodate a star's commercial concerns, and the result satisfied no one. But no relationship was more painful than the one with Paul Newman, the man who became both Redford's greatest triumph and deepest disappointment. When they first met during Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid casting, they seemed perfect complement. Newman brought old-school Hollywood charisma, Redford contributed modern introspective energy. Their on-screen chemistry was immediate and undeniable. During Butch Cassidy, their dynamic was warm and collaborative. Newman, the established star, took younger Redford under his wing, sharing lessons about surviving Hollywood while maintaining integrity. But by The Sting 4 years later, the power balance had shifted. Newman had evolved into not just an actor, but a producer and business entity. He arrived at meetings with studio executives and financial advisors. Redford, still focused on creative aspects, began feeling like a junior partner in what had been an equal collaboration. The change was subtle but unmistakable. During script meetings, Newman would defer to Redford's opinions, then later advocate for changes serving his own interests. He negotiated better billing, more favorable editing choices, and promotional campaigns emphasizing his role over Redford. What hurt most wasn't the professional maneuvering. Redford understood that as business, it was how Newman seemed to view their partnership as competition rather than collaboration. The easy friendship began feeling calculated, as if Newman was always measuring how much to reveal, trust, or give. The final blow came during the Sting promotional tour. Journalists directed questions to Newman first, treating him as senior partner and Redford as supporting player. Headlines emphasized Newman's name, and photo opportunities highlighted Newman's classic movie star presence. Redford watched with growing resentment, not because he needed attention, but because his contribution was being systematically diminished. Newman seemed oblivious to the slight, or simply indifferent. Their friendship didn't explode, it simply faded, one disappointed expectation at a time. Years later, when asked why they never made another film together, Redford always said the timing was never right. But those who knew him understood timing wasn't the issue, trust was. These experiences shaped not just Redford's career choices, but his fundamental approach to relationships. He became more selective about collaborators, more protective of his creative vision, and more willing to work alone than compromise with difficult partners. Some critics called him controlling, others described him as uncompromised. But those who worked with him successfully understood his standards weren't about ego, they were about deep belief that filmmaking was a sacred trust between artist and audience. The irony is that Redford's reputation for being difficult may have cost him opportunities but ultimately preserved the integrity that made his best work enduring. While contemporaries chased trends or adapted to industry demands, Redford remained committed to thoughtful, character-driven storytelling. His conflicts weren't really about personality clashes or professional jealousy, they were about fundamental disagreements over what cinema should be and what responsibility artists have to their craft and audience. Each relationship taught Redford something essential about himself and his art. Hackman showed him the dangers of unchecked ego. Woods forced him to confront his own political courage. Hoffman revealed the difference between talent and professionalism. Cruise exposed the tension between art and commerce. Newman broke his heart by choosing business over friendship. Each relationship was a masterclass in human nature, taught by some of the most gifted actors of their generation. Today at 88, Robert Redford has stepped away from acting, focusing on directing, producing and environmental activism. The Sundance Film Festival, which he founded and nurtured for decades, stands as perhaps his greatest legacy, a place where young filmmakers can tell stories without the commercial pressures and political compromises that defined his career. In creating Sundance, Redford built the collaborative artistic community he had always hoped to find in Hollywood but never quite discovered. The lesson of Robert Redford's career isn't that Hollywood is full of difficult people, though it is. It's that maintaining artistic integrity in a commercial medium requires constant vigilance, difficult choices, and sometimes painful sacrifices. Every artist must decide what they're willing to compromise and what they'll fight to protect. Redford chose to protect his vision, even when it meant working alone, making enemies, and walking away from friendships that no longer served his artistic goals. That choice shaped not just his career but his character, transforming a handsome young actor into one of cinema's most principled and enduring voices. In the end, perhaps that's the real measure of an artist's worth, not how well they get along with others, but how true they remain to themselves and their vision of what art can be. Robert Redford's wars weren't just Hollywood feuds, they were battles for the soul of American cinema. The truth about Hollywood's biggest stars will shock you. Watch our next video to discover which A-list actor secretly destroyed 3 careers in 1 year.